right. So again, welcome everybody. We're happy to have everybody here. The topic today is personalized user experiences that convert. Now, obviously, we're big into conversions, right? But let's talk a little bit about the two of us for a second. So I'm Marty Greif, all right, and I'm president of SiteTuners. A number of you know who I am because I'm getting little messages. Just a brief note about SiteTuners. We're basically a conversion rate optimization agency, and it's all about aligning that customer intent with the experience and your goals. And that is all I'm going to say about SiteTuners, because today is really going to be mostly the Michael show. So Michael Tutek is the co-founder and CEO of preezie. And I want to talk a little bit about preezie. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of time on this slide here. All right. So they've been around for about 5 years now, really started doing serious commercialization in about 4 years. We have worked with them on a number of clients. We've introduced them into clients, and we have seen some astonishingly great results from that, which is why we have a webinar and promoting this and showing people a little bit about preezie. Now, they've won some awards in Australia, and they're expanding big time now into the United States. They've actually opened a U.S. office in Denver. Now, Michael is still staying in Australia, but he's coming back and forth. But having said that, one of the partners, Kwok, is moved his family here, and you've hired some people here, so we're expecting major results now in the US. And so I would like just to share with everybody on here, this is a technology that we recommend to people. We don't get anything out of it, okay, other than happy clients. And so I'm going to turn this over to Michael. And I will tell you, working with Michael and the team has been nothing short of a pleasure. So, Michael, I don't know if you want to add anything to any of this, or if you just want to go for it, my friend.
Thanks, Marty. I think you're too kind. No, I mean, I appreciate it. It's been great, and I can echo the reverse, Marty. A few people we work with that obviously do work with SiteTuners, and the team have said nothing but excellent things. So now I appreciate you taking the time and setting everything up and promoting it. So excited to share what we're talking about, in particular, very relevant given what's happening with Google and Apple. So yeah, keen to get stuck in.
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Oh, I will add one thing. If you have questions, folks, just put them in the Q&A, and I may interrupt Michael in the process to get your question asked, or maybe towards the end, but it's all good. All right.
No worries. Yep. Hey, ask as we go. We'd like to keep it relatively casual. So today's general theme is what we're calling personalizing zero-party experiences that convert. So very quickly, won't go into too much detail, but the things that we'd like to cover is a little bit more on zero party versus first party, but with specific examples. I think even experts I speak to often, when they go, what is zero party, what is first party, what is third party, it does get confusing. There's no doubt about it. So we'll cover that in some detail. And then we'll go into why does it actually matter? Because ultimately what happens is, a lot of brands, and Marty, you'd know this better than most, there's just a ton of different tools. There are a ton of different ways to optimize. There is, redesign, re-platform, 1,000 widgets. So I think part of it is how do you actually figure out what you should spend your time on, but also short-term and long-term, lifetime value versus an immediate conversion. Moving on, we'll talk about, the importance of zero-party personalization, how we actually build the experiences. We'll talk about a few customers we're working with. And then we'll conveniently end it with checkout and post-checkout experiences that we're seeing coming up a lot now, especially with the rise of things like retail media and a lot of budget actually going to retailers to market products. So that's a little bit of a agenda on what we would like to cover today.
Perfect.
Right. So let's dig into zero party and first party. So these terms often get thrown around as if they're the same thing. Now they relate obviously, but they're actually different. So we'll talk about first party because that's what most people are, generally speaking, more familiar with. So you can see there, first party is defined as information that you capture from a customer base or from people who hit your website when they interact with your content. So this is typically passive interaction. It's not voluntary. So an example here is a session ID or a user ID, or Tanya, if she's logged in or who that person in, clicked on dresses, spent 7 minutes on the site, viewed 5 pages, 3 of which were dresses, 2 of which were bags. Now we can all agree that that is, very powerful data. But being first party, it is actually second to zero party. So in terms of data, effectively 0, first, second, third, it just disconnects more. So the closer you are to 0, the better. And 0 is the best form of data. So moving on to the left there, kind of to define zero party versus first party, it's data that a customer intentionally and proactively shares with the business. So if you look at first party, if I go on a website and I click a few buttons and I see some products, like I'm not actually expecting you to, like I'm not actually telling you anything. I'm just browsing and it's passively collecting that information. Versus on the example on the right, say Tanya goes onto your site, she fills in a quiz, and in that quiz you learn that she's 30 to 40 years old. She's looking for, say, above the knee dresses. She's interested in a matching bag. It's for a wedding and it's this weekend. And with that, she may send that email, send that those results or this information to her email, and therefore you've got an email, phone, and name. But you can now really start to understand the difference in zero party versus first party in terms of what you're actually capturing.
Another way to think about that, if you take it off the website for a second, you go to a party, you see somebody, you can, based on just their appearance, you can make some assumptions about them. But if you talk to them and they tell you a little about themselves, you're actually learning about them, and the interaction becomes much more engaging.
Yes, that's actually that's a really good example. How many times have we heard, don't judge the book by its cover? You can almost look at first party is the cover, zero party is reading the book. And it plays a huge role in how you actually, provide an experience post getting it, if you can find a way to capture it. So moving on, I think it's probably fair to say there's probably some really clear advantages, like why this matters. Why should anyone care? Because you can personalize better. But going into the specifics, we've been hearing about it for a while, but Google is actually cutting third-party cookies in January. So in Jan 24, literally next month, 1% of all Chrome browsers are actually going to get third-party cookies cut. And then their hope is by the end of the year, they won't have any third-party cookies running anymore. Now, obviously, this is a big deal. Like Chrome looks after or represents, 65% of all internet traffic. So we're talking, 65% of your sessions are going to, not have third-party cookies. Now, further to this, you can see, and most brands would be familiar with this, that Apple has been making a lot of changes with iOS. iOS 17 and 15 made a lot of changes. So even now, in just normal systems like Klaviyo, Digital, and Marsis, you'll get little warnings that say, this open rate may not be, accurate due to Apple's recent privacy changes. So the truth is, this is becoming super relevant. And you can see there on the right, just some general media, but the most interesting one is that screenshot on the bottom right is actually from Klaviyo, effectively saying that, the future is going to be geared towards brands that actually capture zero party. And the more and more time you spend not capturing it, the less and less you know. It's effectively, Marty, back to your example, going into the party, looking at everybody, understanding what's going on, but not having a single conversation, so not knowing anything like tangible about anyone.
Yeah.
So let's dig into a little bit about how this all makes sense. Like, we've articulated zero party and first party. We've gone through like why it matters. So let's talk about like how do we actually create experiences, and let's talk about real life examples. So if we think of personalization, one of the best ways to think about it is actually looking in and considering how in-store shopping experiences work. I think lots of e-commerce managers and leaders are looking at how to increase conversion rates through technology, AI, but a lot of the stuff you can actually see by just looking into a store, walking into a store. Physical stores convert at 30-40%. So the idea, in essence, is if you walk into a store and you speak to Jessica or speak to Tom, and let's say you're looking for a barbecue or a TV, Tom will start asking you questions. And why are you buying a TV? Did your TV go? Are you building a home theater? How big is the room? And he or she will start learning all the things about you. So you can see that if you consider an in-store experience, there is obviously an intent, and then there is an in-store, and then there is a conversion or potentially a nurture for larger transactions. If you convert that to an online experience, the same thing happens. There is an intent, there is a website visitor, and then there is a nurture. So a lot of this comes down to how do you actually identify all that information? Like in a physical store, to your example, Marty, you can speak to someone, you speak to them, you provide advice, you ask questions. But obviously online, that's not as natural, but you can still get all that information, and that all obviously pans into being zero or first party. So it's, things like, can you identify why the person hit your website? Can you identify that? If you can, that's like identifying their intent. So all of a sudden you're changing the conversation from, hey, you need something and I've got some products that you can buy, to let me actually understand why you're here. And then from there, you can look at things like, are you looking for something specific? Is it for yourself? Is it for someone else? And then with all this, you identify an incredible amount of information that actually helps you get a sale. So in a physical store, for example, if someone walked in and said, hey, I'm looking for a TV for a theater, I'm not starting the project until March because I've got to do a tax return, for example, then that person's not buying, and you can actually start to identify their barriers. And it builds a really, really amazing piece of thought logic. So the idea of this is the personalization can actually just stem from, looking at what experiences look like in store and then adapting that for the online version.
Yeah, if I were to add to that, just as a thought, we've all bought cars in the past, and we've had really great experiences buying cars and really bad experience buying cars, right? And so you go in to buy the car and you got the salesperson just talking at you and not asking any questions whatsoever. They're just on and on and on. Versus you go into a dealership and the car salesman says, so what brings you in today? Why now? They start to have a real conversation with you. And what you're doing is you're basically talking about having the website not be the used car salesman that's just pushy, but having that personal connection with people online. And that's the power. If it works, think about when you bought a car. Were you pushed or did you buy, right? People don't want to be sold. They want to buy. And that's what Michael's talking about. And Michael, if you disagree with that analogy, please feel free. But I feel like that's what you're telling us.
Yeah, for sure. I think there are lots of different examples. It's like right now, typically e-commerce talks about product discovery, and it talks about how do you discover product, and we do that, and CRO would do part of that. But this is almost reversing it. This is like talking about application / people discovery, user discovery. We all know when we're selling anything, whether it be software or car, one of the best ways to actually close or actually get a product sold is to understand like why the person is buying, who are they buying for, what brought them here, and then you can actually adapt what you're saying to make sure that you focus on those points. Same thing. So I 100% agree, Marty. It's a great analogy.
Oh, and I'm taking notes on that one. People discovery. I wrote that down. I love that.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe we should trademark it. We can share the
I love
royalties.
it. Yeah.
That's right. So I think something to mention moving on from that is don't be distracted effectively. And what I try and encourage is don't be distracted too much by the new and shiny. And we can return to the basics. So if you think about it, we're all human beings. We're all buying for ourselves, our loved ones. We're all buying because we either desire something or need something. And it's very easy, just kind of change the philosophy of the CX mantra from going, hey, rather than selling, let's service. So a really good example of this, and I'll take it back to the TV example because I think it's really easy to understand. If you walk into a Best Buy and you speak to Sally and she finds out that you're, building a home theater system and she recommends the right TV for your room because, you need an 80-inch because the room is 4 meters long. So you need something really big. And you need something that is relatively, say, reflection, can deal with reflections well because there are curtains that actually don't block out the sunlight. You can start to see Sally's learning, understanding there is a need, what it is for, what is your application, and then Sally can recommend, hey, here is your TV. Now, let's assume you grab that TV, you go home, and you go to put it on the wall, and you go, oh, like I don't have a wall bracket. I wanted to run a cable through the roof, and you just forgot about these things. You got excited. You're not an expert in this. All of a sudden, your general experience of Sally would be like, why would you not help me? Like, why wouldn't you help me find a bracket? Why wouldn't you help me understand that I need a cable that needs to go through my roof? So if you flip that, you go, okay, that was a poor experience. But if you flip it back to Sally recommended TV, and now because she knows you're building a theater, she talks about, hey, is this a new theater or existing? It's new. Okay, you need a wall bracket. How tall is your ceiling? Would you like where are you going to mount it? Because if you mount it really low, you don't need a bracket that tilts. If you mount it higher, you need a bracket that tilts. So then all of a sudden, you've got a wall bracket. And then next it's, hey, say she's serving you, Marty. It goes on to, what are you doing in terms of cabling? Well, I want to run, I need to run let's say it's a projector. I need to run a cable through the wall into the roof and back out to the top of the projector, comes out of the roof. Okay, how big is your room? You can get this type of cable. It can be a Cat6, it can be HDMI, whatever it is. And you need 15 meters. And all of a sudden, you've now in the store, lift the AOV, which is only natural, but that person gets home, has everything they need, and the overall experience is phenomenal. They are extremely happy. They probably got a discount because the margins are better on accessories. And all of a sudden you leave going home with a tremendously great taste in your mouth. So that's the difference from selling to servicing. Selling is, cool, I know you need this TV, here you go. Servicing is understanding what they're using it for and giving them everything they need to achieve a goal, which is, getting the theater all set up.
And that's a great way to think about it, servicing versus selling, all right? Because one is focused on the visitor versus focused on what you need.
Yeah, yeah. And in the end, if you think about most transactions, even on the screen, you'll see, compression leggings. There's compression leggings, then there's shoes, then there's like the tops. And there's all kinds of things. Let's say, for example, in this example, you're starting to, you've got a goal to run a marathon in 6 months' time, and you're not an expert, you're new to the game, so it helps you with your compression legging, but it says, hey, do you need top? Do you need a duffel bag? Do you need this? Do you need that? You're going to buy all those things anyway. You buy more from one place, get a better experience, they're all matched, warranties all on the same day, they all come at the same time, you get a better price probably because you're buying more. Like, it is a win-win. So the higher you bring up these servicing, the higher your AOV is going to go, the better the customer actually feels. So when they spend more, they will feel better at the end of it. So this is, going into a little bit more detail on that. So I guess part of this, whole conversation we're having, Marty, is like it's all good and well, but like, in theory, it sounds very hard to achieve. You go, hey, in store, that's easy. You've got human beings and they're intelligent and they understand applications, and it's easy. The thing is, it is relatively easy to achieve the same thing online. It's just we don't typically consider it something that is like tangible or achievable. So, in these examples, obviously you go through product recommendations, which are pretty easy. But, in this example here, you actually see, this is a customer we have called Blue Bungalow. And this is an example where you've gone through a journey. We call them journeys, effectively they're quizzes. You've asked the customer a bunch of questions about what they're looking for in a dress. And then at the end, it's actually saying, pick a dress and accessorize this. And this is actually off the back of a quiz. So we know that the person has asked for a bag, they're interested in bags, or they're interested in a necklace, or both. So then what you can do is you can use the same information to accessorize. So say they wanted something that had earthy tones. Here is the earthy dresses, and then you get them a bag and a necklace that actually uses that same information. So tones are earthy, and the vibe is earthy. So it's about taking that next step. And you can do that relatively easily online, because you saw in this one, this is a quiz. This is the online version of talking to the salesperson, ask you a bunch of questions and finds your primary product. In this case, leggings, in this case, dresses. But then you can easily use the same information and the same logic, just like a real person would, to find what those extra pieces are. And then from there, you can provide all kinds of incentive and really great, ways to capture the information, send it to them via email, and capture all that kind of zero-party data.
And just to be clear, when people go through these experiences, the conversion rate goes up. And so I'm just going to bring it back to why these people are here for a second. We've seen people double, triple, quadruple their conversion rates from when people actually go through these experiences. The range is nothing short of shocking at how much more it increases the conversions, average order value, and so on. Right. And Michael, you got a bunch of case studies that show these, but we've seen it live with clients.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen conversion rates, like the highest we saw one was actually 10 times. Like the conversion rates were, just shy of 1, and we were just shy of 10. And on average, we see 50 to 300% increase on conversion rates when shoppers actually use these tools. So moving on to a little bit more details on the how, because I think, more and more of this is, great in theory, but the how kind of becomes more important as you dig into it. So, as we said, earlier in the start, not relying on passive or low intent data allows you to create, a brand new way of thinking for your customers. So, if you think about passive and low intent, that is good data. It is first party. But all of a sudden, when you take it to, getting the nitty-gritties, asking the questions, you build out this zero-party data. So everything we've spoken about is zero-party. And you can do it. It doesn't have to be through preezie or quizzes or, bundles. But you can do it in other ways. You can have surveys, you can have questionnaires. But the ultimate key here is that you need to ask the questions. You need to learn from people discovery, as you said earlier, Marty, understand what their intent is, why they're there, service them, suggest, and then with all that information, you take it beyond the session or beyond the transaction. So you take it into retargeting, and that's where like half the value is. So for example, I know that Carla is searching for new makeup to complete a look for a 30th in 2 weeks. You know, that simple information there is cool. I know it's Carla, capture her email. She's looking for a new makeup, don't know what yet. I can ask more. It's for a 30th, so I could probably, it's not guaranteed, but there is a high percentage chance she's between 25 and 35, and it's in 2 weeks. So I can make assumptions to go, if I want to capture this customer's say share of wallet, you know, my order takes on average 4 days to ship. So I've got, you know, 1.5 weeks to transact with Carla. Otherwise, she's shopped somewhere else. So all of a sudden, you can start to build timing into this, and it just takes it to a whole new world where you actually know that, you know, for example, let's say you actually she bought some makeup from you. You could go, hey, how'd that makeup go in the 30th birthday? I mean, imagine how well the experience would be. You know, how did the dress, how did the dress go for the wedding? Did you need anything else? Like, you can just build this incredible level of one-to-one personalization from website to an actual individual person. So I think you know, it's probably worthwhile going into a case study. So Marty's familiar with Guitar Center, and I'm sure most people are. You know, one of the largest music retailers in the country. And we specifically work with Guitar Center for one core reason. They have an outstanding in-store experience. You go in, you can get service, you can have a go, you can do whatever you need to, but they struggle very heavily on how do we actually create anything online that even comes remotely close to the online experience. The best they had, to be honest, was a call center, and you called the call center and you speak to someone, or you do live chat and you speak to someone, but that's obviously hard. People don't want to talk. It's not scalable. So they ultimately, they were looking for ways to bring in-store shopping online. So we work with them to effectively build out an experience where they had like guitar finders, drum finders, pedal finders, cable finders, you know, Christmas gift finder. Like at the moment, they actually run a Christmas gift finder. And the results, you know, effectively speak for themselves. Every brand who wants to do different things will look for different outcomes. But obviously, being a music retailer, once you're in their funnel, you know, musos, they're loyal. So they stick and they keep buying. So their focus was all on new customers. And we found that new customers were spending 25% more revenue-wise when they actually use this. You know, 4 in every 5 people that used the quiz went the whole way through it. So overall, the experiences are great, and now it's just about, you know, expanding it. Like they expand to lead generation and things like in store, and using it for their call centers.
And more engagement also gives you extra Google love, because Google loves engagement these days. So if people are going through the quiz, they're spending more time on site, they're spending more time on the site, they're seeing more pages. Google rewards engagement.
Yeah.
And by the way, you sell more.
Yeah. It's a bit of a win-win.
Yeah.
And also there is an element where there is an increase in lifetime value for customer. Like we have actually done quite a lot of analysis where we measure the engagement of a shopper that uses preezie versus doesn't use preezie over an extended period of time, say 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, and all their metrics are better. And I'm talking things like they're more likely to come back through organic channels. So they're less likely to click an ad to come back. Theory is that you're more memorable because you've provided a better experience. The numbers just get better and better. So part C of this is actually getting into a little bit more nitty-gritty in terms of the retargeting. So you can see here, obviously we've captured all this zero-party data, but we haven't spoken about how do we actually build it into a record that we can use post-checkout. So in this example, you bought You've got on the website, you've told the site you need a TV for a theater, etc., etc. But if you actually look to, provide an incentive to capture a name, an email, a phone number, you can then tie all that data back together. And this is where, 50% of the value is. So on the right-hand side, you actually see an example of record, like Carla Jane, and her birthday. Carla Jane was looking for makeup for her eyes that were allergen-free. So now we know Carla's age, we know her email, we know her name, we know she was looking for makeup that was for the eyes that are allergen-free. This is what we recommended. Now, all this data is actually the full record of the zero party. So you know what the person wants before they're buying it. So it's pre-purchase and pre-intent. And then you can utilize all this into whatever system you see fit. So you can send it over to Klaviyo, you can send it over to Dot, you can send it over to Amasis. And the results off the back of these are just astronomical. So you can really see how this ties into a world that is not reliant on third-party cookies, is not reliant on Apple changing privacy or Google changing privacy. This is your own information you've got via your own sources to your own customers.
Goes back to people don't want to be sold, they want to buy.
Yeah.
That goes good experience. And the lifetime value thing you mentioned, by the way, Michael, I started thinking about that, and I know that was a little bit back, but it really comes down to, we all have favorite restaurants we go to. Well, why? Probably the food's good, but in a lot of instances, the service was just outstanding. We went to a restaurant the other night. The guy, I love the waiter. Love it. I'm going to go back. The food was good, but I love the waiter, right? And so it's the same. Whatever we do in person that's good, we need to do it online, and that will increase lifetime value.
Yeah. And I think, and we often think that we can, like cheat our way into giving that service. Like, let's put some, like, obviously there are tools that are great, but obviously there is some work just required to build the journeys, build the systems up, build out. But the ultimate results are you increase conversion rate by 20%. You're doing 100 million a year. It's a lot of return. It's a lot of money, and it's worth it. There's a reason why, Best Buy hires 10,000 sales assistants to sit in all their stores, because they know it returns. So moving into a case study very quickly, we work with a brand called Hair House. Obviously, they do all kinds of hair and beauty products. Now, they have 5,000 products, and for them, it was all about how do we navigate 5,000 products online, but then how do we capture that information for retargeting post that? So, quite very quickly, they use Klaviyo. We're capturing the emails. We're capturing the customers' journeys for, it was like appliances, like hair straighteners, curlers, shampoos, and some treatments. And at the end, they provided a 10% discount if you provided your email. And these were the results we saw in Klaviyo. And they're just out like astronomical. It's outstanding. They almost doubled their revenue through the journeys and the workflows in Klaviyo that actually were sourced by preezie emails. The click-through rates were just incredible. The conversion rates on the clicks over time were 4 times higher. They were getting higher AOVs. Generally speaking, it just showed an incredible experience that did end up providing short-term value, but even better than that is the longer-term value they will get from these customers knowing what they know.
I love these results.
Yeah, they were great, but not uncommon with our email capture. It is an outstanding product. So, in the last couple of minutes, I thought I'd kind of close it out with, obviously there is on-site, there is providing that guided selling on-site, the bundling, there is capturing the email, but we shouldn't obviously forget like checkout and post-checkout. So this is more talking about the psychology, because a lot of what we do, Marty, is wrapped around psychology. It's wrapped around, the psychological principles. So like, for us, it's like bringing in-store shopping online, It's about having like delayed gratification and having perceived effort when you're looking at these things. We found there was a lot in the checkout. So, you know, a simple example is just looking at like things like the power of free. So, for example, we've done a bunch of surveys in America and Australia. In America specifically, we found that 71% of Americans found it appealing to actually receive offers and incentives, preferably towards the end of the checkout. So you'll see upsells, but actually at checkout or post-checkout, you'll see like cross-reference referrals, which we do, as well as you'll see like the power of free. So very simply put, let's say shipping is $10 on a product. If you say, hey, buy this product for 50 or 60 and get $10 off versus buy this product for 50 or 60 and get free shipping, we all know the free shipping is going to work significantly better. So the point here is just not to forget the actual checkout experience. Don't make it overwhelming, but your sale's not done until it's done. So you need to reiterate the things. You need to reiterate the free shipping, or you need to reiterate the 10% off, or you need to reiterate the 15% off for the bundle in the checkout if you can, to really get them over the line. All right, and the last lucky last slide of the day's post checkout. So we've discussed on site, we've discussed checkout, but we've been experimenting, Marty, quite a lot with post checkout, and the results we're seeing are pretty good. So we've built, for context, a program called NextBuy. The idea is that brands that are non-compete actually cross-reference post checkout. So you go on to Ulta Beauty and you buy some NARS blush. Post checkout, after the checkout's done, you actually cross-reference and you see an offer from Lululemon for some athleisure. And we initially built this off the back that we did some research and found that, you know, it says there 74% of shoppers found it pleasantly unexpected to receive something post checkout, because once you check out, you know, you're mentally out of the game. If you buy something online post checkout, you've assumed you're done. So what we've found is once you actually do this, the satisfaction of the customer goes through the roof after, because they know that it's not just a sell game. Thank you for your order. Thank you for the credit card details. Here's your tracking. It actually goes beyond that, and you start to create this brand loyalty and this brand loop, if you will, Marty, that allows you to create a community where you actually feel valued, because you're actually getting something from a brand that's not that individual brand. So it starts to feel very, it's disconnected from the brand, so it feels trusted.
Yeah. So I will tell you, when you mentioned this the other day, I was floored by the concept. It was not one I thought of or heard of, and I thought, oh my God, that is actually brilliant. Okay, because now you got brands working together. You've got you're gonna, whatever the original website is, they're gonna feel good about, you know, oh my God, these guys are recommending other people. They care about me. Then there's back and forth between the different brands. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, this is brilliant.
Great. So I think without going into too much detail, I think that summarizes the session, Marty. So happy to open it up to the audience if there's any questions.
Great. So we've had some questions, but I will tell you that I pretty much answered most of those. But if you've all got if you've got more questions, please go ahead and add them in. So, and I'm also just answering more to implement. So I will tell you, if I go back to my question, I would answer. I've watched you behind the scenes, what this does, and the complexity for what you do that you've made easy for clients. The idea of the feeds that you bring in and all of that because you got a client with 500 products, for sake of, or 5,000 products, if they were to try to build this by themselves, I can't imagine what that would be. But you're taking those feeds, you're adding in some intelligence to it and making it easy to actually implement this. So could you talk about how using your technology and the implementation process is streamlined?
Yeah, I think in a simple way, it's almost like looking at like, should I buy Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, or build my own CMS? Like we work with Dell out of the head office in Texas, Guitar Center, Puma, Kmart, Adidas, a lot of the big guys. And generally speaking, the idea is we obviously need to get data. We need to clean that data. We need to build rules. Then you need to build Q&A that's responsive. You need to make sure the design's right. You need to make sure the security's okay. You need to be able to build complicated rules that says, hey, if someone answers this and selects that and they contradict, what do I do? What products do I show? So ultimately, once you get into the nuts and bolts of it, even the biggest companies in the world, like Dell, like Puma, like Adidas, there's just no interest to build this because they do have tech teams, of course, but their tech teams are better off spent implementing tools and ensuring that they've got compliance and security down pat than building, say, for example, a quiz that they now need to have to hire 2 or 3 developers or 4 developers full time to maintain, nurture. And then that doesn't even include any of the reporting. Yeah. How do you get reporting and things change and be adapted? So once you dig into it, it's kind of like, why not build a content management system? It's like, I'm not in the game of building that. I'm in the game of, selling athleisure or selling laptops, and I'll focus there.
Right. And then the other side to that from an agency standpoint is because they've built these amazing tools, it makes it a lot easier for us to say, here's where we'd like this tool to pop up. Here's what we'd like it to say. Here's some of the verbiage we'd use. And so, we add in that marketing above and beyond. So preezie is already doing an amazing job, and they figured out how to make all of these things work. And then it's your job, along with preezie or with ourselves, to figure out how do we take that to the next level to make it even more persuasive, right? And we've seen some amazing results by using preezie. So I would strongly recommend you guys, if you're looking to increase your conversion rates on your site, that you reach out to preezie. Their email address is on the screen. Their website is on the screen. They may have started in Australia, but they are very much becoming an American company too. They've got staff here now, and they actually spell personalized correctly now without an S, and they use disease, so we can count on them to do the American stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Michael, any last thoughts you want to add here?
No, I think Marty, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with me, and yeah, it's been a blast.
So, well, I want to thank you again. I want to thank all of you who came today, and we will send out the recording, and we look forward to seeing you on a future one. And if you need help or have questions about preezie, Michael and company would be more than happy to answer, as would I. So with that, thank you all for your time. Have a great rest of the day. Bye now.
Thank you, everyone.